Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result, are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. It is my hope that in these conversations, we are able to find our truth and be inspired and empowered to live our very best lives. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited to have you here, and I am absolutely giddy right now. I am so in my happy place. If you can hear in the background, that is my very fun friend, Jeff, the chef, sharpening knives because we're about to cook. Well, he's about to cook something fabulous. I'm about to watch it in wonder and awe and then eat it with fabulous delight and excitement. We've just finished up a week with clients on our Charente-Maritime trip. That was amazing. Everyone was so happy and fabulous. And it's just so fun that I get to do this. So thank you that when you say yes to yourself, it's a giant yes for me as well. And now I am back in Jeff's kitchen with his kitty, also making himself known, which is so fun for the weekend before heading to Normandy for a week. I'm just not even going to tell you what's coming after that because you'll have to wait until next week. But it's just really fun. And I'm so happy to have the opportunity to live this beautiful life that I've created for myself. And I know that you are saying yes to yourself in big and small ways and creating the beautiful life that you desire too. And so I am cheering you on from here. Another woman who does wonderful work in helping you identify what that amazing life looks like, or someone who is also cheering you on. We have today's guest, Zerina Derveni. You may remember her from our Say Yes Summit that was in August. She was one of the panelists speaking on freedom. She's such a delightful, wonderful woman. She is a distinguished life coach who specializes in empowering high-performing women and organizations to unlock their full potential, specializing in guiding women who feel lost, stuck, or simply curious to level up. Zerina helps them embrace their inner strength, overcome obstacles, and create lasting transformation in both their personal and professional lives. With a rich executive background in strategic consulting and client engagement with Fortune 500 brands for over a decade, Zerina brings a unique blend of expertise in personal growth, professional development, and transformational coaching. Her tailored coaching approach is designed for those who seek transformative results and the clarity needed to thrive in life. Whether pursuing greater personal fulfillment, enhancing relationships, or navigating career shifts, Zerina provides the high-level guidance and actionable strategies that lead to lasting success. I know you are going to love this conversation, and I know I am going to love the meal I'm about to enjoy. So, to all of us living our best lives, please enjoy this beautiful conversation with Zerina Derveni. Zerina, I can already tell this is going to be an amazing conversation. I've had so much fun over the last few minutes chatting with you, but thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Wendy. And it's my pleasure to have this opportunity with you. So thank you.
Of course. I love how making the decision, the setting the intention to be the woman who ... everyone gets to fill in that blank, is the starting point of, for me at least, recognizing how those intentions bring more people that are desiring the same thing for them into my experience. So I love this podcast. I love the women that I'm getting to meet. The ways that they're saying yes to themselves are so inspiring to me and to my listeners. I love that you're being added to that list, and how there's just so much going on that we don't see, right? And if we can
Absolutely. Yeah.
surrender to that process in a way that has more trust than fear, we just, there's a tsunami of goodness that is waiting on the other side of that.
Absolutely. And I would agree to that, Wendy. And we were talking a little bit about this, but being in this receiving, right, state of mind, it's just so powerful. And really being open to opportunities, I think, is another powerful factor that we as women can embrace more of, right? So just being able to just, relax, be intentional with what you want, your growth, your intentions, and then being in the state of this receiving feminine energy really unlocks so much potential that I wish more women knew, right? That it is one of those powerful, intuitive, receiving energy that I wish more women would tap into.
Yes, me too. So I'm glad that we're having this conversation. I'm glad that we're modeling how dreamy and fabulous it is. I think that for some, it can be scary because you think, I've been in the driver's seat for a long time. And if I give this up, then I'm not in control of where this car is going. But I'm wondering, and I'm just having this thought for the first time because I'm a verbal processor. So these are unedited conversations and very
No, I love
organic.
it.
So I may
Go for
change
it.
my mind by the end of the sentence. But do you think that this idea of surrender is not so much moving from the driver's seat to the passenger seat, but realizing that we are still the driver, but the engine is divine, and the engine is given, we still get to decide where we're going to go, and we can dream as big of a destination as we want, but the surrender is not trying to figure out how this engine works and how what pistons do and like all of these things that are not in our wheelhouse, but trusting that we know where we're going and that this force is going to get us there. And we don't have to know every intricate detail of how that's going to happen. We just need
Right.
to know where we're going.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's a really good point. And what I see in my line of space working with so many women is the moment that we let go of that control that we think is actually driving change for us and surrendering to, just what the universe has in store for you. You really start to tap more into even your creative side as a woman, right? Which is really fascinating. And it's something that you don't really hear of when you're talking about, being in this receptive state of mind, right? But having that ability to trust the process, trust yourself. And you get there once you've done the work, right? And I think that's really important because to just shift from being on the driver's seat to the passenger seat, it's not that easy, right? But once you've done the work, once you've been able to establish some of those tools to help you surrender to the process, I think that's the moment when you really start to attract the things that you're intentional about, right?
Yes.
So absolutely, I think it's worth even trying and trying it once or twice, right, to get comfortable with it. One of the things that I often teach in my coaching sessions, which is so fascinating, yet it's a simple concept for me because I've done it so many times, is, clarity. That's the
Hmm.
one thing that a lot of people are trying to find, right? And especially my line of work. But clarity comes from engagement, not thought, right?
Right.
So it's one of those interesting concepts that when I'm speaking to women about, taking a step back, not always being in control of opportunities that come to you, absolutely, but not always being in control in a sense of the driver is, let's seek the engagement. Let's go for engagement. Let's be open to opportunities. Let's be in a receiving state of mind, because that's when you're really going to start to get more clarity and start to attract more like-minded people around you, more opportunities that are aligned with your core values and purpose. But really it's this magical, universal kind of concept that takes time for you to surrender. But I have to say that concept of, hey, clarity comes from engagement, not thought. It is one of those things that start to really shift for my clients when they're like, okay, let me try this out, right? So it's a
Right. I
practice.
love that. It is a practice. That's exactly it. We talk so much here on the podcast about, checking in. How does this feel in your body? All this somatic work. And it feels like, okay, okay, I've decided I'm going, it's January 1st, whatever. Surrender's going to be my word of the year. Like that is, whoo, buckle up, queen. Because if that's your word of the year, boy, are you going to have a lot of opportunities to practice that. For me as well, the year that I chose aligned for my word, that was very intense. That was the year that I changed the trajectory of this podcast. I changed the trajectory of my 22-year marriage. It's the year I
Wow.
changed the trajectory of really every element of my life. And it seems like when you're going to step into that you're stepping forward.
Hmm.
And you mentioned something about taking a step back, and I see that so much in that process is that we feel like forward momentum looks a certain way when really it is a recalibrating of, okay, I have to step so far back until I am embodied, until I am back to myself, because my forward motion has had me taking care of other people and disconnecting from myself and my needs in the pursuit of what must be done and to what degree it must be done and what it needs to look like and all of these things. And it can, we talked a little bit about perfectionism before we hit
Right.
record, and there's just, yes, it's beautiful to make this decision. I'm going to reinvent myself. I'm going to change some things up. I'm going to do this. There is a dismantling of habits, of thoughts, of paradigms, of all of these things that have made up, all of these practices and habits that have made up our day to day, really can't be quote unquote remodeled. They need to be rebuilt. And
Yeah.
that can feel scary. But what I'm hoping that this conversation does is, by giving you the information that that is how you do it, you won't feel like you're doing it wrong because it feels like it's falling apart in order to build it up. But you're making this decision. I need to find out what I want. That is
Yeah.
sometimes a question that we haven't answered in a really long time. And if the last time you thought about that, you were 22, chances are what you
Hmm.
want has changed. And that takes some rebalancing as well. Like, is that okay? Is that okay? The things that I wanted when I was 30 I want something different now in my mid 50s. And it's this recreation, but I think it all, sorry, I have so many words. I think it's
No, this is
all
great.
coming down to this concept of permission and
Yes.
giving ourselves permission for this to look like however it looks and to be whatever it is and to course correct and shift and to make mistakes and to gain more information and to just keep going, but in this aligned vision, knowing that it's written in pencil, not stone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, what you're alluding to is the permission of growth, right? So
Yeah.
as women, we're wanting to grow, and sometimes we're growing at a rate where we feel, bad, or we feel guilty, or we feel like, oh, this is going to disrupt the dynamic of my family or disrupt the dynamic of my work or friends. So there is this mindset of growth that's embedded in us. In my belief, actually, it's natural, right? It's natural for some women, and they've always had it, but it's like they're battling with that growth mindset that's in them versus the reality. So, you hit on a few really important points, which I hope can encourage some of the listeners here to step back when they're going through this transition of wanting to grow or wanting to live this life of intention or desire. When you step back, it's really important to be able to look at the way the mindset works, right? Because I think progress in today's society is go, 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 grow, grow, grow. And yes, part of that is true. However, let's step back and let's really work on gaining some clarity. So, one of the important aspects is actually understanding how our mind works and how we're operating with our mind. We're using only 5% of our conscious mind daily. So
Mm,
95% of our decisions, our beliefs, our habits, our way of thinking is actually stored in our subconscious mind, right? So stepping back and taking a look at like, why do I have this belief system that if I want to grow professionally, it might upset my partner, or it might create some imbalance in my family dynamic, or, my friends are going to not want to hang out with me, right? These are all real thoughts that go through our mind when we're wanting to, grow or expand or even just try things out, Wendy. Like I said, like it's a
right,
great opportunity when women get to be more creative, right?
right.
And I think that's when growth happens. So really it's stepping back. Let's have a look at what, your core values are. Because I think any decision that you make, whether it be professional or personal, you want to make sure it aligns with your core values, because that's when we make more intentional long-term decisions for ourselves, right? And let's take a look at your belief system. Let's take a look at some habits. Let's take a look at some way of doing and thinking that you're just automatically in that response mode. Why are we doing what we're doing, right? Why are we getting up in the morning, and why are we doing so many things that it's like, okay, wait, I'm, servicing my partner, I'm doing this for my kids, I'm doing this for my business. And it's like, okay, but can we delegate some of that? Can we, do we have to do all that? Can we put some time for some self-care? Can we put some time for growth opportunities, whether it's, reading a book, whether it's going on a podcast, whether it's mingling with like-minded people? I just think there's a lot of room for growth when you step back and you start to look at, some of the decisions you're making from the subconscious mind. And then once you understand, what some of those, sorry, beliefs or habits are that can be changed, then we can start talking about progress, which I think you were alluding to earlier when it comes to growth, right? And the fascinating thing about progress, and I see this all the time when I'm working with clients, is some of it is linear, right?
Hmm.
Some of it is high highs, some of it is low low, some of it is slow. progress. So it's different for everybody. And I think we need to understand that, you know, progress is not going to be linear for everyone. And it's not going to be that fast track as well as we hear about it in, let's say, mainstream media or around our communities. It really is going to be different. But the goal is to step back, understand, your mindset, understand your purpose, and be intentional about it moving forward.
Yes, I agree. And I love that when you mentioned the linear track, and we think, well, we're watching other people's story and it looks linear. It reminded me of when we first moved into this house, we were on an HGTV show called New House, New Life. And it, chronicled the stories of people that made major life changes associated with the move. And we moved from the West Coast to the East Coast, from the city to the country. It was a wedding planner to a wedding venue. So they loved the story. But like all of those shows, they all have the same premise, right? Just like House Hunters, you look at three places and they create all this drama and you guess which one the people chose, but you always know which one they chose or whatever. And it's because they filmed the show 4 months after we bought the house. But the whole premise of the show is which one are they going to choose? And when people who had it, I mean, obviously, if you think about it, you can come up with that idea yourself. But when people were reflecting back to me after watching the show, they're like, oh, I really loved how they put the pumpkins there. Like, those are my pumpkins. We already moved into this house because you can't,
Was done.
right?
Yeah.
And it's like they
Yeah.
can't follow you around for a year and a half waiting for you to pull the trigger. So they
Hmm.
have to create this narrative that, they film for 4 days and it turns into a 27-minute episode. So when we are looking at somebody else's trajectory, their Instagram stories, or listening to a podcast or reading a book, that's somebody's life work that is
Yeah.
now translated into a story because you can't follow them around for 10 years waiting for them to become an overnight success. So
Right.
obviously, when we take a minute and think, well, yes, okay, that's true for all of these shows, it's true for everything. It's true for whatever we're comparing ourselves to. We are only comparing ourselves to a snippet of what actually happened. And when we can remember that, remember what we already know, that everything is always working out for us, that these things are happening for us, not to us, that we really can be, do, and have anything we desire. We get this opportunity to snap out of it and realize that things are great. Do we want more? You bet. More is the
Hmm.
mantra of the universe. So you are creative. Like you said, all these beautiful things happen when we have the chance to be creative. Yes, we're creative beings, meaning we create. We are turning thoughts into things. So,
Yeah.
whatever we need to do that gets us out of our heads and into our hearts, into our hands. I have so many good ideas when I'm mowing my lawn because like I don't have to think about it. I just know what I'm doing and it's enjoyable and I'm getting something done, but I'm also listening to a podcast while I'm doing it. And I'm having all of these good ideas because I've created space for myself.
Right. Right. And I think that's honestly the most beautiful thing that you can do is be in those moments where you're just so relaxed, right? And I wish more women knew the importance of being relaxed. And I know that it's not one of those things that's easily achievable. So I just want to be clear. I understand life and I understand the reality of life, right? But having more of those moments can really help you tap into that mindset where you're just much more intentional. You're much
Mhm.
more in a receiving state, right? Even of information. You're your ability to observe, right? Because there's this concept of absorbing and observing,
Mm,
but your ability to observe is much more impactful when you are in a more relaxed state. And then, the question is, well, how do I get in a more relaxed state, right? And it's really trying your best to set up your own environment because you know yourself more as you continue going through challenges and opportunities in life. You know how to set yourself up in a way that you can be in those environments where you're more relaxed. Like you said, you used the example, like, when you're doing some lawn work, you feel very creative and able to, think these creative thoughts, right? For me, it's actually, when I'm, doing yoga, I love hot yoga. I get in this mindset where just like you, I have all these thoughts, and then it's like, okay, which one do I really want to do though?
right?
Right? It's having that conversation, but it's getting yourself in these state of minds where you're just more relaxed because then you can actually listen to your intuition or listen to your mind from a place that's not in a survival mode, right? So,
Right. Yes,
mm-hmm.
and obviously gratitude plays into that and also celebration. So sometimes we talked about this. You guys should have been listening before I hit record. It was a great conversation. Sorry that I keep referring to it and you weren't in it. But we talked a little bit about moving the goalpost, that you congratulated me on something that was beautiful. And I said, well, there's still this other part that has to happen before no, we get to celebrate every step toward the milestone as the milestone that it is. It is forward momentum. And when we celebrate those wins, not only are we giving ourselves the beautiful endorphin hit that celebration is, but we are giving permission, modeling celebration as a practice to those that are watching. We have a membership associated with this podcast, the Say Yes Sisterhood. And in our community group, we are putting our wins every day. And not everybody does it. And I don't always remember to do it myself. But when we do, we're normalizing celebration, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
We're
Mm-hmm.
normalizing acknowledgement of progress. And we are acknowledging and celebrating that in ourselves, but also in the other people that are doing that work. And it's inspiring. And we know rising tides raise all ships. So it's not braggadocious. It's not, look at me, look at my dreamy, fabulous life. I have a bed and breakfast and a flower farm, and I'm in France for a month. And look at me, look at me. It's not that. It's come with me. Come with
Yeah.
me. I created this life and you can create the life that you want also. And let's do that together.
Oh, that's so inspiring, Wendy. That's so, so inspiring. And I have to say, being able to celebrate those milestones. And I do want to say again, congratulations on your huge milestone this year,
Thank
but
you.
really being in that mindset of like, yes, this is happening, amazing. That positivity, that energy is also going to, help you tap into other areas of your life that
Exactly.
just keeps that momentum going. So I love the idea of you having this be kind of like a core habit that you're encouraging your members to do because I think, once you get into that mindset, you really start to, look at things in a much more positive way and just keep going and keep that
Yes.
momentum of positivity going is, I think, so valuable.
Oh, thank you. Have an 11-year-old, and on the way to school this week, she was telling me the story of a young actress that she follows. And she said she predicted her future. She said, if I was a character in this movie, I would play this person. And 5 years later, she predicted her future. And I turned around. I said, Queen, what do you think I'm doing every morning when I'm meditating? Like
Oh,
we're all predicting our future. The people that are having a life that is not delightful, it's because
Ah,
they're predicting their future. And the people that are having the life we
absolutely.
have, like, we're doing this. And she was like, oh. I said, what do you want? She goes, I don't know. I'm like, okay, well, let's start with clarity. Like, do you want to be happy? Yes. I was like, do you want to be rich? Yes. Do you want to travel VIP? Yes. I was like, see,
Oh,
you
I
know
love
what
her,
you want.
Wendy.
She's so funny. We
She
were on,
knows.
right? On
Yeah.
our last trip to France, I had a wedding. I was a wedding planner for 30 years and I come out of retirement once a year, apparently. That's how it's been working. So this year, so fun, I had a wedding in France on Lake Geneva. So the couple lives in Switzerland, but their wedding was on the France side, the French side of the lake. And so that was really beautiful. And as we were waiting to get on the plane, she said, you know, Mom, do you know there are some planes you can drive your car right up to and you get on? You don't have to stand in line. I said, oh,
Ooh.
well, that's called private travel. She's like, well, we should do that. It's like, yes, we should. Say it
I love
again.
it. Yes, let's manifest that. No,
Right?
yeah, and I think that the whole theme here is manifestation, right?
Right.
And your daughter to be able at 11 years old pick up on that is so powerful, right? And just imagine as she goes through her young adolescence, she's gonna know that secret so early on, which is so wonderful. And especially seeing mom do it. I mean, what a great example, right? So I
It's
really
so
love
fun.
that. Yeah. And interesting enough, Wendy, and I don't really ever talk about this, but when I was younger, university age, I always saw myself working with women and having this
Mm.
platform. But then, I'm going to say this because I can say
Yeah.
this comfortably. My limiting beliefs was like, well, how are you going to
Yeah.
make money? How are you going to survive?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think back then too, there wasn't this whole platform or
Right.
content creator awareness that that could be an actual like job, right?
Right.
I think that wasn't looked upon as something that was like stable and concrete. But I always envisioned that. And I remember being like younger and going to bed and thinking, oh, I want to do this and I want to be so inspirational for so many women. But I didn't know the how. I just knew the
Sure.
what and why, right? So
Perfect.
I spent, believe it or not, and I really hope the listeners here take something from this. I spent probably 11, 12 years getting so many degrees, working for so many global companies in corporate. I spent, probably so much time repeating the same mistake until I got to where I am now, which I made the shift 2 years ago. So listen to those thoughts. And even your daughter
Mm-hmm.
being so young, knowing that she wants this quality of life is actually really important because
Mm-hmm.
those thoughts are there to show you, ooh, like, I really like this
Yep.
idea, or this sounds so good, or this sounds like in alignment with what I want the purpose of my life to be. And I think
Right.
we have to be able to give that voice permission to dictate what we do in our life because it's there for a reason and our intuition is there always guiding us. So let's listen
Yes.
to it because, like I said, I had to go through my own journey of, 11, 12 years that keep in mind, I don't regret my journey.
Sure.
Could I have gone there earlier? Sure. How? Had I been more intentional and actually listened to that voice, would
Mm-hmm.
have gotten me there earlier. But I think that's why I'm here, right? To help
Yeah.
women and use my experiences as lessons that they don't hopefully waste time, in their lives going after what they want.
Right. Oh, I love that. And it's true. And I think I know for sure my limiting belief was, you know, totally in the how. How are you going to do this? And
Right.
work is work, work is hard, and you don't like it, and you hardly make enough money, but you have to do it. Like, what lame
Ugh,
thought system is that?
I know.
Or, well, you better marry a rich guy because
Yeah.
I don't know how you're ever going to get all those things you want. And oh my gosh, Of course, I wanted to be a mother the day I decided I wanted to be a mother. I didn't want to wait 24 Mother's Days between that
Mhm.
desire and having someone small live in my house. But I love raising a young girl in my mid 50s because I can say, she's like, I want to fly private. Awesome, Queen. Let's do it. How do you think, what do you want to do? Like what do you want to fill your day with that fills your bank account
Mhm.
with what you need to fly private? She's like, well, I'm
Mhm.
a fashion designer. Of course you are. So yeah, let's do it. So it's just fun to know what I know now,
Right.
that the dreams are in me because the dreams are for me, and I don't have to figure out how to outsource my desires or the path to lead me there. Of course, the other people are cooperative components. Of course, we're all in this beautiful dance together, but I'm the creator of my experience. She's the creator of her experience. And I'm so excited to have this front row seat to see what happens for her while I'm also have a front row seat to see what's happening for me, because it's a beautiful, graceful unfolding for both
Oh,
of
that's
us.
so exciting, Wendy. That's so, so exciting. And how beautiful that you're both in this journey, different timing, right? But both in this journey of growing and following your dreams. So I think that's wonderful.
Oh, thank you. It is so fun. Now, I did not even ask you the question that I usually start these conversations with. You're so easy to chat with, and we've got plenty of time, but I would love to know, how are you saying yes to yourself in this season?
I think for the longest time, I've always said yes to opportunities. But this season, what's really important is saying yes to the right opportunities of growth
Mm,
for me as a woman and as a life coach, right?
yeah.
And the reason why I wanted to make that clear is because I think, saying yes to growth is kind of vague, right? It's like, okay, what does growth mean for you? But for me this season, I just want to be much more open to opportunities that help me expand as a life coach, help me grow that platform and not feel guilty about it or not
Right.
feel shy or like, can I really do this? It's like, no, none of that limiting beliefs, Zerina. Leave that
Right.
outside the door. You just go for it and you just say yes to growth opportunities.
I love that. What is your practice for knowing the right opportunity for you?
Right. So I think for me is, when it comes to tools and understanding things, when you're a life coach, you learn all that stuff, right? So I have the tools. However, I'm still a woman. I'm still going through my own kind of stuff. So, saying yes to growth, it's a feeling in my gut.
Mm.
It's not my mind. It's not my
Hmm.
heart. It's my gut because my gut does not steer me wrong so far, right? It's only
Right.
steered me wrong when I haven't listened to it. So I think the moment I hear an opportunity, I right away ask, okay, what are you saying, gut? Is it a yes? Is it a no? And I go with that, right? So if it feels in alignment, which usually, your intuition can pick up on things, it's like, you know what? Just go for it. And and really that's been kind of the indicator, which sounds a little bit like silly. However,
Who cares?
yeah, who cares? I
Who
actually
cares?
think, you know what? If it works for you, go for it.
Well, somebody else listening to your gut would be silly. You
Yeah,
listening to your gut is brilliant.
absolutely. Yeah. And it's so interesting because, when my coaching sessions start, usually I coach clients anywhere from 3 to 6 months. They'll come to me with a problem, right? They're usually feeling lost or they're feeling stuck. And the moment they come to me with a problem and we have our first or second session, I always ask, what is your gut feeling saying? And they get kind of like
Mm.
thrown off and they'll tell me what their gut is saying. And I kid you not, Wendy, when we're midway or closer to the end, their gut was right. So
Mhm.
it's like a lesson learned for them. It's like, do you remember on our first or second session, you said this? I'm like, and you were right.
Yeah.
Had you listened to that gut feeling and not listened to, your environment or social expectations, imagine how much time you would have saved and you would be doing other things that are, again,
Right.
more alignment with your purpose. So I'm saying yes to growth. I'm using my gut as my indicator. And I am doing it without any sort of guilt or shame or shyness, and just really wanting to expand as much as I can as a woman and as a life coach.
Oh, I love that so much. And I applaud and celebrate your intention and your decision because we can't, we cannot cater to anybody else effectively.
Mm-hmm.
It's more than a full-time job, and the result is an unlived life. So, you tapping into what's right for you, you're not going to miss out on what's meant for you.
Yeah.
And you're not going to even offend, no one gets hurt. When you're saying yes to yourself, everybody wins. When you know what your yes is, you are a better person. You're a better spouse. You're a better parent. You're a better sibling. You're a better child. You're a better friend. You're a better colleague. All of these things because you are in alignment. And sometimes we think, well, if I'm selfish, then this whole thing's going to fall apart. And it's like, no, because if the things that fall apart were not for you,
Right.
and the
Right.
things that are really aligned, you are modeling by choosing yourself. You're modeling what you want everybody else to choose themselves too. And then we can collectively rise, but we've are able to discern if we're in the right room or not.
Mm-hmm.
And that, of course, like that's a whole nother podcast of what do you do when you find out you're not in the right room? Like
Right.
that's a process too, but that's also always a double blessing. If
Absolutely.
you don't feel like you're in the right room, the other people don't think you're in the right room either. So there's
Exactly.
your choice is to exit or conform.
Exactly. And what's interesting about that too is if you actually, again, I think it's echoing what we said earlier, step back, right? If you're stepping back and you're taking a look at your behavior, right? Your behavioral pattern. So we all have it, whether it's through cycles, whether it's through a specific, like whether it's your, personal relationships, whether it's you as an entrepreneur or a business owner or as a professional, we have these cycles of behavioral patterns. And if we step back and actually pay attention to them, it helps us also as we're moving forward and growing and living this life of more alignment. It helps us understand what do we do in those situations when we're in a room that we don't belong in. Now, even I'm going to use my experience.
Please.
In the past, I would be in these rooms where I'm like, oh, I just, these people are not really like-minded like me. They don't, I would actually sit there and I would just stick with it. I would conform. I would be like, okay, well, this is the situation, right?
I made a commitment. I said I would be there.
Exactly. Exactly. So, and I would adapt.
Mm.
And it's interesting because there is this sense of flexibility that's linked to happiness, right? So to be happy, you have to have some sort of flexibility. And I think in my younger years, I confused adapting to being happy, but that's not the case. And now, in this state of mind that I'm in, and this state of clarity that I have about myself and what I want, in that room, I would sit there, I would think, be kind, be graceful, thank you everyone for your time. I would actually walk away and I would, use that energy and time to find a room where I actually belong
Right.
rather than sitting there and adapting.
Yeah.
And now it's bringing in that concept of flexibility, right?
Yes.
Now it's like, okay, let me try another room and let me see where, I really fit in. And I just don't want to waste any more time, Wendy. And I
Exactly.
think, yeah, and I think, and you can also allude to this. I think doing what I do and listening to women and listening to the time that they waste, it really, really upsets me because it's like, had we just gone with what we knew was better for us,
Hmm.
listen to our gut, listen to our purpose, we wouldn't be wasting all this time. We would then
Right.
be just continuing to grow and learn and make
Yes.
mistakes and try again and learn some more but just be in a more intentional space that
Yes.
makes sense to us, right?
Yes, that's
So,
fluid because I
yes.
think we can also think, okay, well, I don't belong in this room. Now I have to get out of this room, and wherever I land next is where I have to stay. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
just take the same mindset and change rooms. That's just geography. But coming to this awareness of, you know, actually want to say as well, I think it seems really hard to do this if you don't know what you want. So, working on, even if you feel like you might be in the wrong room, working on that relationship between you and you, that
Mhm.
alignment. What does it feel like? Are there areas that I need to adapt? Is this a growth opportunity? Does being in this room feel uncomfortable because it's calling me up? Does being in this room feel uncomfortable because it's, instead of adapting, I'm actually abandoning myself? And
Mhm.
those are questions that require stepping back, that require listening to your body, that require journaling. For me, the feeling if someone asks you a question, you're like, well, I think, no, I don't want to know what you think. I want to know what you feel. I want to know like how your body is responding to these things. Once you have that level of clarity of knowing what
Right.
feels good to you and feels right to you, then when you make the declaration, friends, I don't
Mhm.
belong in this room,
Mhm.
then it doesn't matter what anyone in that room says about what they think you should do or what your commitment was or all of those things, because you're so aligned, you're so in tune with yourself that your decision, I'm not asking permission, I'm sharing information. I no longer belong in this room, and I'm not requiring all of you to change to make me feel better. I bid you farewell and
Yeah.
best on your journey. I'm going to be over here in another room of my own creation. But to declare whatever room you're I'm not suggesting anyone's whatever. You know what room that you don't belong in. But you don't have to just stand up and make some bold gesture that is based in fear or based in lack or scarcity or manipulation for somebody else to change, an ultimatum. um, you you're coming at it from a place of you've done the work, you know what you want, you know what you desire, and that is so empowering that
Mhm.
when the people that are getting that information for the first time react in whatever functional or healthy or dysfunctional way that they react, it just bounces off of you because you've really solidified and you have that clarity. And
Right.
that's also just the clarity for the next step. It's not the clarity of what this is going to look like 5 years from now. It's just,
That's such a
this
good
is
point.
right. Like
Yeah.
my
This is
decision to
my
get
next
out
step.
of the room. Like
Right.
that's as far as I know this is going to go. And I don't have to wait until I figure out the whole trajectory because I don't even know what it looks like to not be in this room anymore. So how can I make a plan of every
Mhm.
single thing that I'm going to do? What I'm going to do is I'm going to get out of this room and I'm going to celebrate that. I'm going to feel the alignment of that and I'm going to tap in and I'm going to ask, okay, where should I go? Where would you have me go? what would you have me do? What would you have me say? And to whom would you have me say it? And the universe answers all of those questions. And you've already practiced what listening feels like. So you will know what the next step is.
Absolutely. Oh my God, there's so much to unpack here, Wendy, but I think you've brought some really good points out. So I think let's go back to who am I? It's
Yeah.
this whole self-discovery journey that I actually use in my coaching practice with women because I think self-discovery is an ongoing process. It's not just a session you get to know who I am, right? So
Right.
self-discovery is one of those concepts that I continue to teach women and continue to work with women because I think as women, we could change 4 or 5 times in our lifetime, right? So why cap
Hopefully.
it? Why put a number? Like we could do
Right.
more. So your who am I question should not be linked to your self-worth. So I just want to make
Mm,
that very clear. So when you're in a
beautiful.
room, yeah, when you're in a room, you have to have a good handle of your self-worth and your self-control. So I think that's where putting in the work is really important because, you know, your discovery of who am I and what do I want and do I belong here, it's going to be ongoing. And like I said, clarity comes from engagement. So you need to
Mhm.
have those scenarios of what you don't want to get to what you want. So, yeah, I just want to make it clear if anyone is in this situation where they're just questioning or asking these important self discovery questions, that's okay. And just know your self worth is just another area that you can work on in the meantime to make sure that you are listening to your body and you are listening to your mind and your heart to make sure you're making the right decisions.
Yes, and that you can trust them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's really where doing the work on your self-worth, your self-esteem, your self-confidence is just so powerful. So I encourage, everyone to whether it's, you get a coach or not, that's completely up to you, but do the self-work, do the healing. Another thing that you brought up, which I think is interesting too, is change is uncomfortable, right? So let's face it, for everybody, I think
Mhm.
change is uncomfortable. And I think until you master change, you will then start to really welcome it and look forward to it. But change will always be uncomfortable. So going in a new room, it is uncomfortable. But what's different about positive change and maybe I'm going to say neutral or negative change is are you excited during that uncomfortable moment, right?
Mm.
So it's like, like, do I want to be in this room? Yeah, it's so exciting. These people are like really like, outspoken and bold and creative. Then you stay. But if you're in a situation where you're feeling drained, you're feeling like there is no alignment, that's when you get up and walk away, right? So I think, it's so wonderful that, you've done all the work, Wendy. You've gone through all these experiences, which I think is so, so powerful to understanding, what it is that you want for the younger maybe listeners that are still going through that, I think understanding that change is uncomfortable, but is it exciting or is it draining you will help you make that next step decision, which I think is so important, right? You don't need to figure out
Right.
everything out in that moment, but just know your next move is good enough. I think that's the goal.
Yes, and thank you for those kinds words, but the work is not something that you are ever done with.
Right. Oh,
Right?
I
Like,
yeah, yeah.
right? Because and for me is specifically, I'll only speak for myself, it's like the hungry head of the dragon. I cannot get enough of it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I feel like I'm making up for lost time. I don't feel like, oh, I wish I would have known this earlier. I feel I'm so glad I know this now. And I'm
Oh,
so
I love
glad
that.
that
Yeah.
I don't consider forgetting what I know. I don't
Hmm.
consider going backward. I'm only my trajectory is yes, and my trajectory is let's figure it out. Let's find out what it's going to be. I'm not just um making it up in the sense of, oh, I'm just going to go out and throw these seeds in a field and we'll see what happens. It's not that. I have these practices. I have this space that I hold
Intentional
for
too.
myself. Yes,
Right.
every
Right.
day, but I don't go into that time of meditation and journaling and praying and reading. I don't go into that time all with an outcome in mind. I come
Wow.
with a beginner's mind of like,
Mhm.
what else don't I know? That is so exciting
Yeah.
that you're here for me. And I call it God, and God is communicating with me and dropping these ideas and beautiful thoughts into my mind. And because I'm receptive and because I trust that he knows and he's not mean and he's not making me do something I don't want to do, he's helping me get to the place that I said I wanted to go. Like, I'm the driver, he's the engine. Like, we're getting this done. But I'm grateful that I go into that space asking, how can I be of service? My arms are wide. What can I do today? And having this mantra of I'm only available for what delights me, that's my filter of what is my gut saying this.
Oh, I
So
love that.
I get the
Yeah.
idea. I'm like, that sounds amazing. Yeah, I'll do that. And here it is. And I'm creating this beautiful life.
Oh, that's so inspiring. Everything that you just said right now, by the way, Wendy, hits my number one value, which is contribution. And I think you've got this mindset of just contributing,
Yeah.
adding value,
Yeah.
right? And I think, and I can speak for myself, but in my earlier years, my number one value, not knowingly, of course, now I can see it, was actually chasing significance, right? So how can
Yeah.
I be more significant? How can I do this? And there's this like mindset that you think you're doing so much and you're doing so good, but really focusing on your contribution. How are you adding value?
Mhm.
Right? Is what, like significance will naturally follow, of
Right.
course, right? Because you're focusing on creating value. And I think that that's just so beautiful. And for you to have,
Mm.
learned this in your life and continue to practice this is, I think, very inspiring. I mean, I had this breakthrough about 2 years ago where I was like, I need to start focusing on my contribution. How am I adding
Yeah.
value? How am I creating value? And all of that is obviously connected to your core alignment and purpose,
Yeah.
but focusing on that every day gives you the sense of clarity and peace because you're not focusing on recognition or status, all those things that significance plays a role in, because let's face it, like that can be so tiring
Mhm.
and when is it enough, right?
Right. They move the goalpost.
Exactly. But when you actually focus on providing value and like you said, how can I be of service? How can I contribute? You actually expand so much more,
Hmm.
attract more opportunities,
Right.
and then, significance will like follow you naturally and more so long term. So I just love that you spoke about this because it is my number one value. It's contribution.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yay. Yay. Thank you. I appreciate that and receive that. Thank you so much. Okay, I could obviously talk to you all day long. You're amazing. I hope that you take on clients that don't live near you. So please tell everyone where they can find and follow you, how they can work with you, all the things.
Oh, well, thank you, Wendy. So, I am an international life coach, which is great. So, I do virtual sessions for people around the world.
Perfect.
So, happy to take new clients from other places in the world. But you can find me on ZerinaLifeCoach.com. So, that's my website. And through the contact portal, can shoot me an email. You can talk about, certain areas that you would like to focus on once we have our first call. And yeah, we could take it from there. I'm also on Instagram at Zerina Life Coach. That's my handle. And I mean, I think when it comes to coaching, just know I help a lot of women on personal development coaching. So whether you're just wanting to learn more about yourself or expand as a woman, I'm happy to support you there. If you're going through certain transitions, happy to support you there. And a lot of the coaching is around empowerment, and it's empowering my clients to find clarity and purpose. So it's a journey that we go through together, but it's a beautiful journey, if you're ready to take on that next chapter in your life. And I also help women in their professional fields too. So they are, interconnected. There's always purpose related to your personal and professional life, but yeah, I'm happy to talk to new clients. And if you're of growth mindset, I'm happy to even have those conversations, even if it's just from a curious perspective. I think it's great to be able to connect with as many women as I can.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for that. We will link everything down in the show notes. I cannot wait to spend more time with you, have more conversations. You are a delight. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Wendy. Appreciate it.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wrighthouse and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.